Hey people, I'm back off restriction. YouTube found something I posted over a year ago about a 10-year-old Bilderberg meeting that was reflected on the WHO website. I posted a couple movies on my backup channel, but mainly I just been reading in Colossians about this sorrow cycle. You know, there's a metonic cycle, metonic or metatonic, that's 235 months, 19 years. But there's also this sorrow cycle, and it's a cycle of eclipses, and it's 223 months. And they found all the eclipses to go in a cycle and to reflect each other. They call this a SAR. They say this is half of a sorrow cycle, and it's 9 years and 5.5 days. And what'll happen is 9 years and 5.5 days, wherever you had an eclipse of the moon, it'll reflect the same back on the earth. You know, if we had a partial eclipse of the moon and the earth had shaded the lower side of the moon, 9 years, 5.5 days later, you're going to have the moon shading the sun on the lower part of the earth. You know, if you're watching an eclipse of the moon, what you're looking at, like you're on the earth and the sun's behind you, and this red is the shadow of the earth. And as the moon rolls in, you watch how it rolls in, which side it's rolling in from. And so that's going to let you know 9 years later whether the eclipse is going to be above the equator or below the equator or on the equator. It's going to give you an idea of the distance, depending on where the moon traveled through the shadow. So 9 years later, you set a journey for a couple months before the eclipse. So you know when you're 2 months into it, you can get an accurate bearing. Your time, your clock might have got off some, but during this solar eclipse, you can get an accurate Greenwich time. And just by shooting the sun at that moment, it'll give you your longitude. You'll know where you're at on the earth. From shooting the North Star the night before, you'll have an accurate spot. And you don't have to be in a total eclipse. You just mark the time when the moon touches the sun and when it leaves the sun, and set your Greenwich time to the exact middle there. So if you're up in the morning and you see this eclipse start, as soon as the moon touches the sun, you set your stopwatch. And then you get your sextant and you shoot an elevation on the sun. And then you watch for the moon to exit the sun and check that time. And you're going to divide that time in half. And that's going to give you the Greenwich time of when that eclipse is supposed to come through. And so the time in the book is going to tell you where you were looking at the sun. If you were standing in Greenwich, what angle you would be looking at the sun. And subtracting those times, going to give you your angle of where you're at on the earth. It's going to give you a longitude. And they use Kratos to tell this story. And you'll see Kratos, Pallas, Styx, Nightby, and Zillus all in these 4 chapters telling this story. And it starts here with slow as the male. Pavalos, slow as. Apostle. The slow is the male. And it's, the time of the O's of had Elphos. And so the time of the O's of had Elphos. Elphos means the key holder. It'll take forever to find it here, but if you go to images, you can see real quick that it has to do with the key bearers. And so the key bearers wasn't necessarily the key to the door, but it was key to wind the clock. Only one man gets the key to the clock. You can't have everybody winding the clock. So about 6 years ago, I used to have this recurring dream of a big red planet riding low on some clouds, riding west to east. It didn't have Jesus sitting up on top of it like this, but something in me just let me know that that's what that meant, was the coming of Jesus, was that red planet. And there was a bunch of other clues in here, but that's what really rang the bell, was here in the second line. This in the greeting from Paul, these first 2 lines. And it finishes the second line with, reads backwards, O-P-A-P-O, of a way the of fat rose, R-O-S-E-M-O-O-N, the fat rose moon. So after reading in Colossians and Acts, chasing words, believe that the little wave here, you read this the first time through, and you don't read it with the second time when you're reading all the other directional markings. And so you just use the wave one time, and what it does, it turns the this changes from taught the first time, and then it's taught to the second time around. And so this gives some good definitions in here for the theo, the theon, the theos, the Christo, and Jesus. And this word they call the saints, or sometimes holy. So they'll hide this word for the cycle right up here in this sarcos. And it come up as the flesh a bunch of different ways, always beginning with the SAR though, the SAR cycle, the SAR cause. And this word for circumcision, it comes up a bunch of different ways, and this is one of the best places to see the meaning of it. In that, this is a THT and then an H. In that, appear it too much. Parry around too much, or appear it too much. MH too much. And materi. That's where your word material come from. And appear it too much materi fit, F-H-T, P-H-T, F-H-T, the fit of. Appear it too much materi fit of. And you get some of it cut off. Another big clue was this here posy and the new moon. The posy is the inscription inside of a ring, but the posy is also the ring. And a new moon, that would be an eclipse of the sun. It's a gold ring with an inscription inside. This is the posy. The sun is the gold. You're looking at a gold ring, the posy. So let me just throw this in here before I lose it. A lot of the words I was looking up there in Colossians, they were only used there and in this Acts. And back in the day, if you had a pair of binoculars, that means you owned two ships, binocular. And so they got this confused, the ship owner and the pilot. They got these backwards. And this is the pilot here, the nocular. And that's what this chapter is called, Paul Sails for Rome. And it's all about sailing. And it's got a whole bunch of sailing words they got backwards in here. So it talks about this centron here a couple times. And it's the hecaton, they say is 100. And they'll call the centauron the captain of 100 men. And so that would mean that the tarch means captain of men, and the eketon means 100. But the eketon doesn't mean 100. We see it here, the eketon, and it has the mark over the E always. Every which way it's written, and have the mark over the E. And it always combines with a word that comes in front of it. The eka is like the deca is 10, eka 0. And so it depends on the word that comes in front of it. But it's to, know, and take. And so if you started with 100, and no take, you still got 100. And it means 100%. It kind of means a century here. And what it says is, oh, the heck it on torches. Oh, the heck it on torches. Hexer it not tell. And so when you get so old, the heck it on torches. There ain't enough room on your cake to put all them candles, what that means. It means a whole bunch. The heck it on torches. And the hexer at not take. And so it's just talking about what times to do your magic. So the blood of the cross is to aim it as to starve. to aim it as to store of. And a store, S-T-A-U-R, is a stake or a rod or a pole with a sharpened point, an obelisk, a post, a pole. And so the blood of the cross is to aim it as to of the store of. And this word for holy, I don't know how to pronounce this, agios, but this is all over Europe. This means a good return. When you're traveling through Europe, there's a bunch of different monies you're using. Some monies are worth more than others. When you go to cash them in, to get some local money to spend in that town, if your money's more valuable, you'll get a geo. It means a good return. And a good return voyage. And so holy is a good return. Is a good return voyage. And they'll change these last two letters throughout. So in French, agios is an exchange premium. And the last two letters change. It has different meanings. Agio, a good return of soyage, of your what you planted. In the Dutch, the same thing. Borrowed from Italian, agio. And so all these words for saints, you have a geo, a good return of knowledge, or a good return of us voyage, bon voyage. And so this word for hearts, it means heart, but not like hearts. It means, the core through, core dia. And it means the middle, the core through, which is often the heart. And the core through what's on the symbi, symbi together, the working together, the symbi in as tense. And tense are also dents or teeth, like teeth of gears. And this is a symbiotic relation in the symbi and as tense. And you'll see this S-U-N and S-U-M all the way through here. The sim being working together and sin together. And this sin is those, his EPIGNOSE, epig, and nose in, EPIGNOSE in, to mystery of. So, of understanding to the knowledge of the mystery of God, which is Christ, is his EPIGNOSE in, of on nose in to, and then VOM to vom. And vom is from the vom. Von is from, you see it in names, von in German names, meaning from, or same as Ben in Arabic names, from, son of. So this knowledge isn't just knowledge, but it's a effigy. The effigy knows in. So the effigy is to shape, to sculpt a roughly made model of a particular person, an effigy. And so his effigy knows in to vom, to from the history. That's where your word history comes from. Same place as mystery. And to figure out the history, you have to muster everything together, get a count of it. I want to muster you. And his effigy knows in to from the history of. You got to know your history to know the shape. To vout, V-O-T-E, to vout, to wish the of, watch, W-O-C-H, the watcher, the watcherist of. The watcherist is the person that does that. The watcherist. And the ova is the egg, and that's the shape of the moon. shape of the moon's travel. So here's a good one. The one they got for praying is Pro 4SE, the force which, WCH, the force which of men call, the force of which men call, who they're praying to. And this word for hope, is die through then, because of thee, or through then, elapidate, the lapidate on. And it's surely making fun of this word, lapidatus, to throw stones at. And so this changes from, through die then elapidating to die then adipal elapidating. So then means a time, and so through the mark on is the date on, die through the mark on, the date on elapidating. But when you come read it the second time, it's the date on adipal elapidating. And so the second time it's the date on the double stone, the double to dilapidate is to fall apart, and to elapidate would be to build up. And so the date on the double to build up, the double elapidating, the day on the double lapidation. And so this work here, this is ergo, and it's where your word Virgo comes from. Virgo was the god of work. And so in Pantyhergo, a god of Carpo, a god of Carpo, the T is also the D. A gato. The gato is the cat in most languages. And Carpo is not the fruit, but to harvest, to pluck the fruit, to cut, to pick, the harvest, fruit of the mind, profit. And so bringing forth fruit is, the profit of foro. Foro is tax. Foro apology exemption. A foro die through fudge, tax evasion, you fudge your taxes. Forologia, taxation. The forotechnicos, the ones that's checking your taxes. And the fudgers, the tax evader, the one that's fudging. And so Agatha, the fruit of tax wants. Of its anno, of its time, men call, menoi. That epi on the nose, they too. And then voth, vote, the vout of. The two working together is what this meaning of the knowledge of God is. On knows they, to the two working to the two vouth of. And that sounds more like the word they'll give good in the Hebrew, in with of, B-U-T-H, both, vuth, in vouth of, in the two working together. And in pass, the dynam. A dynamo is a spinning wheel. You might take your power source off a spinning wheel, but the dynam is spinning wheel, and the dynam move. The spinning wheel move. The men call according to Kata, dedicated to Kratos. The divine personification of strength, the dynamo. And so Nun is the ancient Egyptian god of renew, the flood of the Nile, and Nun the chair of. Nun chair of in toy as. In toy is in between, ensnared. In toy is gears clash, and teeth of gears clashing together, in toy of, is to being passed back and forth between a game of keep away, somebody passing something back and forth, in toying over you. And none chair of in toy as fate come as in the mason from as in fate, the path, the path, and the fate are all the same word. Your path is your fate, and your fate comes in. Appear among new, antana pluro. So somebody else has done this work for me, and they say this word, antana pluro, means to complete in the place of another, filling somebody else's space. And none chair of in toy as fate comes in. Appear to mom new, filling someone else's space to. The histermata. What is lacking is your history. To filling somebody else's place in the histermata, that which is from. Filling somebody else's place in the history. Toten telipsion. The telipsion are the knowledge that are told by the eclipson. The telipsion to the watcher, W-O-C-H-R, to the watcher is to voen, V-O-E-N. Voen means to fly, to pass rapidly. Telipson, to watcher, is to voen, that the sar key move. Voen that sar key move. Appear to was matos, matos, that which is from so. Why so is the question, and that which is from so is the answer. What to voo, V-O-O. And voo also to fly, also where the word the voodoo come from, meaning evil. And so the voo is it in Heckle Hasya. In the church is the H-E-K-K-L-H-S-Y-A. In the Heckle Hasya. And to fly is it in Heckle Hasya. So everything about this chapter is talking about the SAR cycle and the eclipses. And he's trying to get you the picture in your mind, the shape of the universe, and why this is like it is. That you may be filled with the EPIGNOSE in. You got to understand the shape of it. You got to understand the pig nose in.
Don't forget, hooty hoot, I won't forget.
Alright, I'm going to cut this off here. Good day.